Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. I just came back from a beautiful 5-day trip at Mexico, Cancun, and I wanted to go talk over the amazing trip that we had and hopefully give you an itinerary for the future if you're planning on going. Our first day, we arrived at Cancun around 7 a.m. We actually were there visiting family, and this was our third time in Cancun. So our first stop was getting breakfast at a cute little coffee shop in Mexico. The name of the coffee shop, I think, is Café Gracia. I'm probably saying it wrong, and I'm gonna put all the locations and leave all the names to it later. But anyway, over there we had a beautiful breakfast. It was all the sweets that you could possibly think of. We're talking milkshakes, talking donuts. It was a whole fusion of all the American things that you typically see here. So we had a pretty large breakfast for a family of four, and it ended up being pretty cheap. Hence, since we're in Cancun, things are going to be a little bit cheaper than in the U.S. Later that day, we ended up going to the mall, a mall called Plaza Américas, and it's this giant, beautiful square mall where there's all these American brands and some Mexican brands too, where you can eat out of. We ended up eating at Olive Garden that night, and again, we're a group of four, so the cost of it you would expect it to be very high, but since we're in Mexico, things are looking pretty cheap. So I ended up paying around $111 for the four of us, and it was pretty good. Olive Garden wasn't our first idea of going to while we're in Mexico. We were thinking more, let's do tacos or something like that, but our friends and family that live there, they they kind of have enough of that. It's kind of like if you live here, you're sick of American food, and if you're there, you're sick of Mexican food. So they wanted to try something a little bit different, and luckily we hadn't been to Olive Garden in a long time, so we decided to go anyway. So our first day, we kind of just ended up getting there, eating a lot, taking time to catch up and talk with our friends and family. Now on the second day is where things became a little bit more interesting. So on the second day, we were planning to go to a cenote, and if you know what a cenote is like a spring. It's like almost like a sinkhole with water. And essentially, as we were on our way to our cenote, that I believe it was midday, we actually ended up getting rear-ended. And I'm going to put the photos of that accident and exactly what happened. But we ended up getting rear-ended in a pretty bad hit. It was around 30 miles per hour, but luckily everybody ended up being okay, and we actually didn't let that ruin our trip. So after waiting about 2 hours for the insurance companies to show up, we proceeded to go get a new rental car because obviously we can't drive in a car that we've been hit in. We got a new rental car and then proceeded to head to the cenote. And once we got there, it was a beautiful cenote. Again, I'm gonna leave the name of the descriptions, but it was beautiful. It was the cenote had a cliff, so you could do a cliff jump into, and it was just crystal clear waters in essentially like a dark cave type of style. So once we finished there, I think we were there for around 3 to 4 hours. We headed home, and I think we proceeded to stop at a Brazilian steakhouse, if I'm not wrong. Now, in that Brazilian steakhouse, or it's possible that the Brazilian steakhouse was the next day. I think that day we actually just stopped at a regular Mexican restaurant and had some good food. Now, on the next day, that was day three, and on that day we actually went to the doctor. So even though this is a vacation trip and an itinerary, for us it was a little bit more than that. So my fiance has been struggling with some health issues, and unfortunately, in the U.S., the healthcare system and getting things checked out and going somewhere is kind of a hassle. So, example, if you have an issue that is related to your urinary tract, or if you have an issue that's related to let's say your gas, your stomach or anything like that, you get to send to these specialists, but you have to go to one specific person. You have to go to your primary care physician, which is your main doctor for simple things, I guess. And then that doctor then essentially he transfers you or refers you to another person. And it's essentially you kind of have to climb a ladder, almost like corporate America. You just got to keep climbing until you get to the final boss, and then you finally get your problem checked out. And at times, issues will be that you want to go to a certain specialist, but that specialist does not have spots available till a year, maybe 6 months, a year, even longer than that. So that can be pretty frustrating if you're already struggling with these issues and you want to solve it now. So for us, we took this as an opportunity that, we're in another country. We are frequent travelers, so we're traveling outside the country every 3 to 4 months, and each time that we travel, sometimes we go to a doctor, we may go to the dentist at a different place, just because we're there, and it's, again, it's so cheap, and you get, if not better quality of service, if not the same service for less money. So while we were there, we decided to go to the doctor there for my fiance and got her health checked out. She actually, during that day to the last day, we actually got treatments every day. We went to the doctor every morning and we got treatments that resolve her issue. So that day was the morning was mostly filled being at a doctor's office, and they did all the kinds of tests that you could expect. They looked into her stomach, her liver, her heart, all the possible things that you can get in like essentially what would have taken you 6 or 4 months, different types of specialists to see. She got it all in one day. And once we got that done, we actually got some pretty good news to her condition, and I'm happy to say that her condition is not permanent. It's actually temporary, and they gave us some things to take, and hopefully in 2 months or maybe in a couple of weeks it will clear up. So on that day, this is day three technically of our itinerary. We started with a doctor, and then through in between the day, I believe we went to a small beach near Cancun. That was just a public beach; anybody can go. I mean, pretty much, if you know Cancun and the hotel area, it's kind of like a little circle. So you don't really have to wonder where the beach is at. If you hit in either direction, you're gonna hit a beach within like 5 minutes. So as soon as we were done there, we went to have tacos, I think, because finally we got some Mexican food. And then later, I think in that evening, we went to this wonderful steakhouse called Mr. Pampas, and it's a Brazilian style like buffet where you get in, you pay a certain price, and you eat as much as you can. And that was one of the best restaurants I think we ever been to in Cancun. And it surprisingly ended up being a Brazilian steakhouse in Mexico, but it was so good. If you're going, I definitely recommend. I think pricing was around, I think, $30 for per person. Could have been lower, could be higher, but it's totally worth it. There are some places that just you pay and you try something new and it doesn't go well, but this one was not it. So 100% recommend it. So once we were done there, I think we stayed up walking around the hotel area, and then later proceeded to go home to our Airbnb. The next day we had parasailing. So on this day we went parasailing around 10 a.m. in the morning. You show up pretty early to parasailing because in Cancun it's very tropical, so the weather changes consistently. And I should know because while we were there, it was kind of raining like every 4 hours or so. So we're taking advantage of the morning before everything gets so, condensation and precipitation happens is probably a good idea. So we got parasailing, and essentially what happens when you go parasailing, this was our first time going parasailing, and you essentially get a boat. A boat takes you, and it's a tiny boat, not a giant boat. It takes you to the main boat, which then takes you parasailing. So, yep, but this was one of the best beaches that I think we have ever been to. So once you get up there, then it takes about 3 to 4 minutes to get up there, and you're stabilized, and you just get to enjoy the time and look at the beautiful views of Cancun. Within 6 or maybe 8 minutes, you get to be reeled down, and again, you can still enjoy the time because you're not being reeled down sporadically or anything like that. You're just being reeled down slowly into the boat. Now, once we were finished there, we went out to get more eats, and we actually ate at a restaurant that night called Lorenzo's, or I think Lorencillos. While we were there, we had a nice visitor, Lorenzo himself, which is an alligator, or I'm sorry, a crocodile. We're in Mexico, and he kind of scared the crap out of us. So we kind of slowly wanted to move to a different table, but we didn't end up moving because he later went away. So the next day it was pack up day and we were ready to leave. The family decided to make us a giant breakfast, and it was actually a traditional Mexican breakfast called chilaquiles. My fiance loves that, And once we finished eating the breakfast, we thought it was a great idea to go to the pool 2 hours before our flight. What was supposed to be a 20-minute, pool time ended up being, I think, 40 minutes or something like that. And then we had to rush upstairs, get our things, and head to the airport. And we actually ended up making to the airport 45 minutes before our flight was departing. Luckily, I checked us in online the day prior, and look, it's a small airport, so it's not a very large airport. So we were able to quickly just go to our gate and catch our flight on time. But again, thank you guys for watching. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. I'll try to push out more content frequently, maybe once a week or twice a week. We typically tend to travel out internationally about 3 to 4 months, maybe sometimes a little bit shorter, depending on what we have to do or if it's something related to our health. But most of the time, we're traveling somewhere, and I'll be sure to blog those and put these up. So thank you guys for watching, and you guys have a great day.